here to discuss what we can expect next in this air war. Retired Air Force General Michael Hayden. You remember Mike is also the former director of both NSA and CIA. He's now a principal at the Chertoff Group. Mike, as always, we thank you, and it's 2 days in a row for you here now on America's Forum.
Thanks, JD. Always glad to chat.
So, General, in the day we've spent apart, UK talking about joining up with this coalition, what would this expanded role or this role for the UK mean in this air war on ISIS?
A couple of things. One, expanded legitimacy. That it's just not an American effort, and give full credit to the administration getting the 5 Arab nations to fly along with us, at least on day 1 of the strikes. But to get other European nations from other parts of the world, I understand the Australians are close to signing on as well, gives this an international legitimacy that it's going to have over the long term. Secondly, these guys are good. They know what they're doing. It's additional firepower. So this would be a happy outcome.
Well, Mike, yesterday you touched on Turkey and the importance of adding the Turks to the coalition. Meantime, the White House press secretary Josh Earnest appeared on MSNBC talking about the handful of Arab nations supporting the U.S. fight against the Islamic State and the prospects of seeing Turkey getting involved in this coalition.
So there is a clear interest for Turkey to be involved in this. And we do anticipate that they will be working constructively with the broader international coalition to combat ISIL.
Mike, it sounds like great expectations for Turkey's involvement. Do you believe the Turks, in the final analysis, will join this coalition?
You know, let me give you the answer that's always correct for an intelligence officer, JD. I'm not sure.
Okay.
The Turkish this is about Turkish policy, and Turkish policy, frankly, has been muddled. Okay, we're trying to bring along an ally who will be very valuable for this. But their own approach, the Turks' own approach to this problem, hasn't been all that clear, and certainly hasn't been all that consistent. I mean, there's reason to believe that they were a bit indiscriminate in who they allowed to cross their border, what they allowed to cross the border to whom earlier in the conflict. Now they've been bitten by ISIS. I mean, they had their diplomats as hostages in Mosul for the longest time. I think the Turks are still sorting this out on their own as to the best approach. The more we can get them on side, JD, the easier this becomes. Erdogan wants to create a safe haven in northern Syria. I think he wants to do it because he doesn't want 1 million refugees in Turkey. But it also gives the opposition some sense of geography, which in my view would actually be a good idea. He may be trying to lean on us for support for this safe haven concept that he has before he signs on. So I hope Josh Earnest is right, but this is probably going to take some time.
And Mike, as we talk about what's going on the ground in Ankara in terms of the deliberations of the Turkish government, we know that our own State Department is sending a warning to Americans in Turkey, and we think not only of Ankara nor Izmir and Incirlik, but places like Istanbul. They're telling Americans in Turkey to be on alert for the possibility of attacks there. As you take a look at the ramifications of what's going on with the air war, is that warning to Americans in Turkey the necessary and proper acknowledgement of a threat that could exist in Turkey toward Americans?
JD, I think it is. But I think you and I should not presume that the warning was based upon specific threat information that something was going to happen in Turkey. What you have here in ISIS is a group that now wants to strike back, but they don't have the global reach that Al-Qaeda at its height had. And therefore they are at best currently within their capacity a regional threat. And that's a long border with Turkey. It's fairly porous. And so I think just kind of reasoning backward from what they might want to do, you issue this warning, as opposed to reasoning forward from a specific plot line. But it's still good advice. I travel to Turkey frequently. I would not have problems going back, but I too would be alert while I was there.
General, since you're back with us today, we have the luxury of reviewing some of your comments from yesterday when you joined us, and I asked you whether airstrikes alone would be enough. Let's review that conversation and then get your updated perspective.
These were probably the easier targets to identify. These are the ones that you had good intelligence on. And you're going to run out of those, and the enemy's going to get smarter, and they're going to go to ground and more blend in with the civilian population. So to keep this up, and we have to keep it up, we're going to need a lot more very exquisite intelligence, and it's going to be hard to come by, so we've got a challenge here.
General, this morning's Washington Times quotes Bart Bechtel, a retired CIA operative. He said, quote, "I was mad as hell when I saw the hit on a supposed ISIL building. The right question is, why not the entire building?" In other words, the airstrikes are a bit too surgical for his taste and for other unnamed retired Air Force generals. Mike, we know you. We know your time in the Air Force and serving in different capacities within our intelligence community. Have our airstrikes been a bit too surgical? Should they be a bit more overwhelming?
Well, let me go back to the earlier answer, JD, which again is always correct. I don't know, because I don't know the detailed targeting. But let me give you a thought. I would not jump to the conclusion that Bart and apparently some others have jumped to. Here's the issue, JD. Airstrikes disable and degrade ISIS, but you don't win this at the strategic level over the long term unless you change the reality, unless you change facts on the ground. Now, look, I'm all in favor of what we're doing, and frankly, I think we ought to be doing more in terms of, better integrating with ground forces to a lower tactical level and so on. But I am fully aware, because I've got some experience in this, the way you handle the close fight, that is, these guys already convinced that they want to come kill us, and you got to take them off the battlefield. The way you handle that close fight actually influences how it is you are or are not successful with the deep fight. The production rate of people who want to come kill us. And so it's just not about the tactical considerations of putting that weapon on that target. You've got to consider the strategic implications of this as well. And so, again, I don't know the details, so I can't judge, but I understand where you want to be precise with your targeting and exquisite with your intelligence, because making mistakes there will make it difficult to achieve the ultimate objective, which is to make this problem go away.
So, General, what's next?
I think, anybody in uniform has been asked about this, JD, it's still in uniform being asked about this. On the record, they go out of their way to say this will take years. So what's next is a sustained campaign against ISIS, certainly from the air, trying to merge that with what's left of the Iraqi army that can be reconstituted in the Kurdish Peshmerga, and over the long term, some modest ground presence in Syria. Again, we talked yesterday. I don't think that's enough. We should have been doing more, and we should have been doing more sooner. Long campaign. Good to have some other allies on board, like you said at the beginning.
Well, Mike, as we look ahead, we always appreciate your wisdom and counsel. Obviously, you know about the air war, you know about the intelligence necessary, and you help us have some insight into what may be transpiring. And, of course, Mike, you're always candid enough to say, if I don't have the information at hand, I'll tell you that too. So we appreciate all you have to say, including those obligatory disclaimers from time to time.
Okay, thanks.
General Michael Hayden, former Director of Central Intelligence and the National Security Agency, offering his insights again this morning. So, you heard what Mike has to say. What's your take? Why don't you tweet me your comments here at Newsmax TV? Hashtag comes at Newsmax TV, hashtag America's Forum. You can also send us your comments at newsmaxtv.com/comment. And of course, there is Facebook. To reach us via Facebook, it's facebook.com/Newsmax. Obviously, there is more ahead as we're just getting started. Check of the headlines next as we continue here on America's Forum on Newsmax TV.